Welcome back to Daily ACIM, a deep dive into A Course in Miracles. Today, we're exploring Lesson 100. My part is essential to God's plan for salvation. Yesterday, we were looking at Lesson 99, that one where it's all about, stepping back and letting God, kind of take the lead, trusting in his plan, even if we don't really get it.
Yeah, and lesson 100 it picks up right where that leaves off, doesn't it? Like it's taking that divine guidance thing and then it's like, okay, so what's your part in this whole thing? You're not like just sitting on the sidelines, right? You have an active role to play.
It almost feels like a challenge, a little bit. Like, okay, so we're trusting in God, great, but now what? What's my responsibility in this whole big plan?
And I think that's where that whole salvation thing comes in. And remember in ACM, salvation, it's not about like avoiding punishment or getting into heaven or anything like that. It's more about like a shift in how you see things, like waking up from a dream, from that dream of being separate from everything.
Okay, so it's more like an internal thing, not some kind of external reward. But this lesson is saying that my part is essential to that transformation, not just for me, but for like the whole world. That's kind of a lot to get your head around.
It is. It really is. And it goes back to that core teaching in ACM
Hmm.
about, the power of the mind. Like
Yeah.
if all of our minds together are creating our reality, then each of us has an impact on the salvation of everything.
It's like we're all holding these pieces of a giant puzzle. We might not see the whole picture, right?
Right.
But each piece is important to make the whole thing.
Yeah, that's a great way to picture it. And this lesson, it's reminding us that our piece, your piece, it matters. It's not like a small thing. It's essential.
Okay, so we're all like these big players in this huge cosmic play. But what does ACM really mean by God's plan? Is it like a set script, something we're all following? Or is there room for like free will for us to, express ourselves?
That's a really interesting question. And I think ACM it kind of leaves room for both. On the one hand, there's this sense of like a bigger purpose,
Yeah.
like a huge plan that we're all a part of.
Hmm.
But then on the other hand, we have the choice. We can choose to be a part of it or not. Our free will comes in how we express our own part in this plan.
So it's less about like following a strict set of rules and more about getting in tune with a bigger intention, a direction of love and healing.
Exactly. Exactly. And that's where I think that whole responsibility thing comes in. Lesson 100 isn't just saying, sit back and let God do it all. It's saying you have a part to play in this. Your choices matter. What you do contributes to the healing of everything.
So how do we even begin to understand how big that is? It's almost overwhelming to think that my small actions every day could have such a huge impact on the salvation of the world.
Like I get that. It can be a lot, but let's remember ACM, it's not asking us to like save the world all by ourselves. It's
Mhm.
more about recognizing that we're all in this together.
Yeah.
That every act of kindness, every time we forgive, every time we choose love over fear, all of that, it contributes to everyone waking up.
So it's not about these big, huge gestures, but more about shifting how we see things in those moments that seem, kind of unimportant.
Yeah.
But how do we know what choices are in line with this plan? Is there like a roadmap or a set of instructions or something?
That's where things get really, really interesting. The course, it doesn't give you like a step-by-step guide. It's more about principles, tools, and a new way of seeing the world. It's like it's encouraging us to look at every situation and ask ourselves, what would love do here?
So it's about developing a mindset, like an awareness that helps us make choices from a place of love instead of fear or ego. But how do we actually do that? What does that look like in real life?
Well, that's what we're going to dive into in the next part of our deep dive. We'll explore some of the specific things that ACM talks about, the tools that it gives us to help us really live this lesson and play our part in the salvation of the world.
Okay, so we've talked about how we all have this like really important part in this big plan for salvation, but it can still feel kind of, I don't know, abstract, like what are some real like concrete ways we can actually live this lesson in our everyday lives?
Yeah, you're totally right. It's not enough to just like get it in your head. AC is all about, putting these ideas into practice, like
Mhm.
taking these big ideas and actually making them real in our lives.
Okay, so how do we actually do that? Where do we even start?
Well, lesson 100 itself, it actually gives us some good hints.
Yeah.
One of the phrases that really stands out to me is that, my part is essential. And notice how it doesn't say, my part is perfect or my part is always easy. It just says it's essential.
Right, right. I see what you mean. It's like it's acknowledging that our role, it might be, messy or tough or even just plain confusing sometimes. But even when we're struggling, what we do still matters.
Exactly. And that's, I think, where forgiveness comes in. ACIM really emphasizes forgiveness as this important practice for seeing our true selves and how we're all connected. When we forgive ourselves and others, it's like we're untangling those knots in the tapestry. We're letting the threads flow more freely.
So it's not about saying, bad behavior is okay or pretending everything is fine. It's more about choosing to see beyond what our egos are telling us and remembering that we're all, human. We're all divine even.
That's a beautiful way to put it. And remember, forgiveness, it's not just a one-time thing. It's this practice we do over and over, a choice we make in each moment. Every time we choose forgiveness over judgment, we're helping to heal ourselves and the world.
That sounds like a really powerful tool. But I mean, forgiveness can be really tough, especially when we've been hurt. ASIM actually has a whole section on forgiveness, right?
Yeah, yeah, it does. And there's a good reason for that. Forgiveness is really at the core of what ASIM teaches. It's not about letting people get away with things. It's more about freeing ourselves from, all that resentment and anger
Yeah.
that keeps us trapped in this illusion of separation.
Okay, so how does forgiveness tie back into this idea of God's plan? Is it about like aligning with some kind of cosmic justice or fairness?
That's a good question. I think it's less about cosmic justice and more about being in line with love. Remember, ASIM teaches that love is like the ultimate reality. It's the thing that connects all of us. And when we choose forgiveness, we're choosing to see through love instead of fear. You know,
So it's about like changing our perspective, like choosing to see the situation and the people in it from this higher place, a place where we can see that we're all one.
exactly, exactly. And that's where, another really important practice comes in. Gratitude. When we're focused on the things we're grateful for, it becomes easier to let go of that resentment and make room for forgiveness. Gratitude helps us see the good in ourselves and in other people, even when it's kind of hidden under all the pain and confusion.
It's like gratitude, it shines a light on those connections, those threads. It lets us see the beauty and the purpose in everything, even when things are, difficult.
Yeah, and that shift in how we see things, that's really important to playing our part in God's plan. When we go through life with gratitude and forgiveness, we can hear the Holy Spirit more clearly. We can hear that inner voice of love that guides us toward what's best for us and for everyone.
So it's not about trying to be perfect or forcing ourselves to feel grateful all the time. It's more about being aware, about being willing to choose love and forgiveness whenever we can, knowing that every little choice we make, it helps everyone move toward healing and waking up.
Yeah, and I think that's what makes this lesson so powerful. It reminds us that we're not helpless. We have the power to choose love, to forgive, to be a source of healing and light in the world. Our part in God's plan, it might not always be easy or glamorous, but it's always essential and it's always there for us.
Yeah, it really is. It's inspiring, to think that even with all the craziness and uncertainty in the world, we each have this power, this amazing power to help heal and transform things.
It is. Yeah,
Yeah.
it really is. And that's one of the things I find so comforting about this lesson. It's like this reminder that we're not alone in this. We have each other and we have this divine plan that's always working, even when we can't really see the big picture.
Right. But what about those times when we feel lost or like we're not connected to that plan? Like when we start doubting ourselves, whether we can really make a difference.
Oh, those feelings are totally normal. We all have them, It's the ego. It wants us to believe that we're separate, that we're powerless, that we don't really matter. But ASIM, it tells us that those are just illusions. Our true nature is love, and love is always powerful.
So how do we tap into that power when we're feeling, lost or discouraged? How do we get back to that sense of purpose, that feeling of belonging?
One of the simplest but most powerful things that ACIM talks about is just asking for help. We don't have to figure everything out on our own. We can turn to our inner guide, to the Holy Spirit, and just ask for guidance, for clarity, for the strength to do our part in this plan.
It's like remembering that we have this direct line to the source of all love and wisdom, you know? We just got to pick up the phone and make the call. Yeah.
Exactly, exactly. And the more we practice connecting with that inner guidance,
Hmm.
the more we can hear it. Like those whispers, those little nudges, those invitations to do things that are in line with our true purpose.
So it's about learning to trust, you
Yeah.
know, being willing to surrender to something bigger than ourselves, even when we don't don't fully understand it.
Yeah, and remembering that our part in this plan, it might not always look like what we expect.
Yeah.
It might be some big act of service, or it might be something small, like saying something kind to a stranger,
Yeah.
or listening to a friend who needs someone to talk to, or choosing to forgive someone who's hurt us.
It's like realizing that every choice we make, every interaction, it's a chance to show love, to help heal, to contribute to the salvation of the world in our own way.
And as we practice living like this, we start to feel a real change in our own lives. We feel more connected, more like we have a purpose, more at peace with ourselves and with everything around us.
So as we wrap up our deep dive into lesson 100, what's the one thing you really hope listeners will take away from all of this?
I think it's this. Your part in God's plan for salvation, it's essential. You matter. The choices you make,
Right.
they matter. And you have the power inside of you to make a difference in the world just by choosing love, choosing love in every moment and every interaction.
Thank you for joining us on this deep dive into A Course in Miracles Lesson 100. We hope this exploration has given you some new insights and maybe inspired you to really embrace your part in the world, your essential part in all of this.
And remember to like, share, and subscribe to Daily ACIM for more deep dives into A Course in Miracles. See you tomorrow.